Good morning. Let's do another devotion together, shall we? I like this one. Well, first of all, we're in First John, and I like his writing. I like who John is. I love the fact that he gets more fully than it seems most any of the other disciples that Jesus actually loves him, and he is comfortable with that. He doesn't seem to have to earn it. He doesn't seem to suffer from the idea that, again, that it's based on his actions or whatever else. He just always seems to be able to find Jesus and sit back in his lap or on his breast, and that's just a lovely thing. Again, that would be my idea of allowing God to love you and being changed by that love. Okay, so this morning in the daily devotions for Wednesday, we're reading in 1 John chapter 1, but we're out of the passage 1 through 4, which will be the fodder for this sermon coming up, and Pastor Jeremy is going to preach this sermon. We love it when he brings the historical background into context and lets us have a better understanding of what's going on before we get started in the writing. So that's important, but I'm also going to add to your literary arsenal this morning by giving you two more kind of weapons that help you understand and investigate the truth of the scripture that we're reading. So I'm going to be asking you to read beyond verses 1 through 4 in 1 John chapter 1 into 5 through 10 this morning. And the reason I'm going to ask you to do that is because I think, number one, it's a related thought, and it adds to our ability to understand and kind of comprehend why John is writing this letter, what he wants to accomplish. And if I were to summarize that, I would, out of verses 3 and 4, the reason for John's writing is to proclaim the truth about Jesus so that his audience may know the true fellowship in him, and that their joy in relationship to God and others would be made full. That's why John is writing. But again, I think verses 5 through 10 will help you discover that. So, what are the two weapons I'm offering you today in your arsenal? They are, number one, reading scripture backwards, which of course doesn't mean each word backwards. It means reading from the end of the passage back to the beginning, or from the bottom of the page to the top. And then number two, thinking about the backstory. So again, what would reading scripture backwards help you to do? I think it helps you kind of to dissect what's going on rather than to merely read over it, because that's the pattern of our reading, and we could read from left to right and from top to bottom, and sometimes we can miss things. So reading backwards forces us to pay particular and unique attention, and rather intense attention to what's going on there. And more specifically, it demands us to pay specific attention to words and to phrases and to ideas and to the relationship they have with one another. Okay, so that's important. And then number two, thinking about the backstory is just another field from which questions can come that help us dissect what's being written and what's being offered. Thinking about the backstory, to me, means thinking and kind of wondering about the possibilities as to what brought out the comments or the arguments that the author is providing in the scripture that we're reading. So what events or issues precipitated the need for John to write what he wrote, and then what does John compare or contrast, and what does that say about his audience, their understanding, and the issues of Christian theology or Christian conduct with which they needed help, according to him. Using these investigative reading tools will help you better understand, and as always, always expect the Spirit's full attention with you as you investigate his eternal written word, small w, written word, right? Expect the word, capital W, his Spirit in us, to help us understand more fully his written word, which is good and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for all sorts of training in righteousness. So as you venture with him into the truth this morning, God bless you. Be aware, absorb, and find yourself, like John, ready to sit with Jesus and just simply relax in him. God bless you today.